Hi, Colin Healey, premier American uranium company founded to consolidate assets in the United States, develop and advance assets focused on U.S. uranium and building a company around that model.
Good to see you here. I mean, you're sort of neck of the woods, aren't I now? PDAC, what's happening over there?
Oh, it's definitely busy. I mean, we're in an extremely bullish scenario for uranium, but you know that the equities have been feeling the pain of the spot price, which I think is going to be quite temporary. But it's an exciting time. I mean, there's no question that we're looking at some of the best. Say it all the time, but the best fundamentals in the uranium sector is seen since post-Fukushima, and I really don't think the equities are given the proper recognition for it. And I think.
Well, yeah, we had a conversation with Troy Bourgeois of Arthur Energy just I think it was Friday, right?
Yep.
It was not long ago since we spoke, but retail just a little bit confused about the story out there with uranium. But hopefully, when they watch that tomorrow, they'll have some ideas and thoughts about maybe what's important and what to focus on. But today we're going to focus on you building that portfolio. Three assets in 3 states in the US. I think obviously New Mexico is the most advanced. That's probably the thing we should focus on today. So where are we at today? What are the plans for 25?
So we just announced some pretty positive news on our New Mexico asset. I mean, we had a resource. We didn't have a resource when we acquired it from American Future Fuel back in June, when we started that process in March of 2024. By the end of that process, we had a 23.5 million pound current resource. And not 12 months later, our goal is to have a resource update and a preliminary economic assessment on that asset. So incredibly fast advancement of that asset. Very positive for us. And I think one of the most important things we can do here is show the economic potential and economic value of that asset to continue to justify spending money there. And we're able to do that by deferring a couple $1 million in spending that was initially thought to be required to accomplish some of those goals. So quite positive. So the front end of our year in 2025, right up until early summer, is going to be very New Mexico focused.
Right, and let's talk about New Mexico itself, because a lot of headlines around Wyoming, and you've got a project there yourselves, but New Mexico a little less understood. What's the benefits of operating there?
Well, New Mexico is historically the 4th largest uranium producing jurisdiction in the world. Almost 350 million pounds of historic production. Our project in particular, there's an open pit and an underground component to our resource. But our resources in the Grants Mineral Belt located on the Sebieto land grant of the Spanish land grants of I think 1844 to be accurate. But it's very important for us to be on those private lands. Obviously, as we advance the project through permitting and towards production, we're going to be engaging with all the stakeholders regionally. But with being on private land is a big advantage. We don't have Navajo active on those lands, and we think that we can, in our PEA, show a self-contained project that won't have to transport ore across state highways or Navajo lands, which can be sensitive. So I think we have a big advantage in New Mexico, and one of the reasons that we acquired the project because it's the most attractive asset that we saw out there. And a big part of that was not just the quality of the resource potential and the depth of the underground component, but also the fact that it was on those private lands.
Right. Okay. And this conversation we had on Friday, we talked about demand is understood, supply clearly I think less understood in the sense that I think we're all in agreement. There's probably less supply coming through than is advertised in the markets at the moment, which will create opportunities for everyone. But in the meantime, holding patterns required. So, best use of capital allocation for you, working towards this PEA, working towards advancing New Mexico. What does that look like?
Well, for us, I mean, that was one of the most positive takeaways from this plan to have a PEA out by early summer. And it was, we were able to, because we have such a robust historic database on that project in New Mexico, we were able to defer a couple of $1 million in spending that was going to be required, mostly drill work for some tech to reconfirm some technical information about the deposit, where in our historic database we have 100 plus holes that confirm specific information that the QP would be looking for. So we took that to the QP and showed the data, and came to an agreement to be able to deliver that PEA without doing that, deferring a couple $1 million in spending. And the resource update that's coming along with that PEA is really a component of the historic drill work that we did not include in the original resource back in June. So that was mostly a desktop exercise. That data has been digitized. That data is going to contribute hopefully to some resource upside along with that PEA.
Right, and that's going to be important to you because just trying to get a sense of the PEAs plus a 30% variability there, it gives a sense of what you can do with the pounds you've got currently. Because again, if I refer back to some of the stories coming out of Wyoming, we're talking about 10 million pounds, and people are saying, well, you can economically, you can mine these things and get things going. For you, what are you looking to answer with this PEA yourselves?
I mean, always that's a similar question. What would it? I think we need to show the market a few things. We need to show them what a mining concept would look like, how many pounds we could produce, how we're going to process it, and what kind of a mine life we can support, and what just that whole mining concept. And I think it's really important to do that once we have a resource of critical mass to support that, which I think that we do, which is why we're moving down that path. But showing the market a model for a economic operation will really justify the future spending that we do. When we go in and do drill under our permits, we'll be drilling to add pounds, extend the resource, but people will be able to take those results and immediately feed them into a model that we've provided to say, this is what this is worth. These guys are spending the money wisely because it's increasing value to the project with additional drilling. So I think this is the natural progression, and just a really efficient way to advance the project in an environment where uranium prices come down a lot.
So you've kind of got your mantra. What was it? Acquire, advance. What's your 3 words?
Acquire, explore, develop.
Explore, develop, right?
are the 3 pillars of the company that we're building on.
So when you try and apply those to kind of a commercial reality in an environment like this, it's really important to understand: do those pillars still stand up? All 3 stand up, because it's clear that some people feel that changing the model, involving the model slightly is important. So let's look at those. Acquire for you at the moment. You did that early on. Mm-hmm. Is that possible moving forward as well?
I think it is. And, one of the difficulties of an environment like this is, the lower uranium price creates opportunity. We identify assets that are probably more attractively priced, but also your stock is, we're a uranium company. We have correlation to the uranium price, and we have it on the way up and we have it on the way down. So it changes. The relative value between your acquisition targets and your own stock is important. And one of the things that about Premier that you get in that regard is the support of some really strong shareholders. 31% owned by Sachem Cove, 9% by ISO.
Yeah, 56% in pretty tight hands.
Right. And guys, teams that provide incredible mentorship, have executed the consolidation model before, understand it, and are willing to support it as we kind of go down the path of consolidating other assets. And I think that puts us in a unique position to go and do that relative to some of the other operators in regionally in the U.S. And so it is very much still part of our strategy.
Right.
But we also have to be good stewards of capital. We have to acquire projects that we think are going to be accretive. Yeah. Sebieta is an incredible example of that. Acquire it, doesn't have a resource, got a resource, going to have economics within 12 months of the first resource. Plus or minus a month or two. But, I'm shooting for less than 12 months. So those are the kinds of projects that we're working really hard to find because we can, for a reasonable spend, show significant value. So, our pipeline is constantly under kind of development and examination, but I don't think that anything has changed about that part of the strategy.
Okay, so the aggression component is still there. We're absolutely still about that.
For sure.
Okay, let's move on to explore. Now, explore means a lot of different things, right? There's lots of different types of exploration, and some of it being valued more than others in the marketplace. Okay, so explore will cover, I guess, discovery and growth and all of those wonderful things that exploration does. But what are you going to focus on? Because that's the expensive bit as well.
Right, and so on the pure exploration side, our Cyclone project in Wyoming is that. We went and drilled it for the first time in 2024, put 41 holes into. That project is kind of divided into 2 separate targets, a Cyclone Rim target and an Osborne Draw target. We put 41 holes in. 36 of those went into the cyclone rim target. We were successful in identifying a half-mile trend of uranium mineralized holes that meet the grade thickness and grade cutoff of regional resources that exist within other companies. So that was quite positive. So in 2025, we have a permit in place for Wyoming to go and drill another 25 holes. We have, we'll probably tell the market exactly how we're going to deploy those holes. I can guarantee that we're going to be out drilling 25 holes in Wyoming starting in July of this year.
Right.
But exactly where those are going to happen on each of the two targets is
what's the window there? Because obviously winter comes in pretty thick and hard.
The drill window usually ends in Wyoming about mid-October.
Yeah.
This year it was mid-October. You might get lucky and go longer, but we'll be able to, based on the rate that we drilled in 2024, we're using the same contractors for the majority of that program, so I think that we'll be able to drill that quite quickly. The one thing that we're working on, we're preparing applications for a plan of operations in Wyoming. If we were able to submit those and get those approved, so a big question mark on approvals, but if you get those approved, there's the potential to expand that program.
Okay.
If the market warrants, which will have a lot to do with uranium price and the market telling us to be more aggressive with the drilling there.
Right.
But there is potential, so we can guarantee 25 holes, which should generate some news flow from July until October.
Right.
But we would look to expand that because we were very happy with the results that we got.
And I said, okay, so very much into the exploration side of things, but come back to that question statement about what's being rewarded in the market at the moment. Okay, retail, just a little bit confused and just wondering what the heck's going on out there. Understandable. We try and put a good case forward for like patience is required. Do you think that drilling will get people excited? I mean, or should it get people excited? Because I want to understand what fundamentally you think is important.
I think that in a market like this, and we saw it in the last in other cycles where the pullback in uranium was much more severe, the market always rewards discovery. And from that perspective, yeah, we had some historic drilling on that project. We have an a resource exploration target in a 43-101 report of 7 to 12.5 million pounds, but we don't have a resource. And I think that in that regard, this is kind of a discovery that's growing, and I think that the market generally rewards that kind of news. It's the most impactful kind of drilling you can do is to delineate a brand new deposit and put out that initial resource. So I think that there should be some rewards there, and you and I went over some of the reasons that we might see some strength back in the swap price in the next 6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
So if you get those two things happening together, I think there's a lot of upside potential.
Right. Okay. So pillars 1 and 2 are working. 3, we can move forward with that.
Well, develop is
it's a harder one, right?
It's one of those ones that, as an analyst, I used to define kind of development as any company that had preliminary economics already. So one of the things we kind of alluded to in our press release about New Mexico is resource and resource expansion. That's kind of exploration. But once you move into an economic assessment that shows positive economics, which we hope to do, you're kind of in that development phase where, yes, you're still drilling to expand your resource. Some of your drilling is exploration, but I really think that putting out the preliminary economic assessment marks that transition from exploration to development for that project. So we have pure exploration going on in Wyoming. We have exploration transitioning to development with those economics in New Mexico. And the acquisition piece is it's something that's hard to talk about until you announce an acquisition.
Yeah.
But it is something that we're continuously working on.
It's a strange thing. Each of them brings something to the party. But again, depending on what the market is that's why I keep coming back to this, and just what the market values just almost dictates where you spend more of your time. Because the acquisition thing, there's a lot of conversation, not a lot of spend compared to drilling. And the development as well, but it starts to actually put some numbers around it, but which can be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on what you're putting out there. So getting that balance right, I guess that's the benefit of having a portfolio.
Yeah, it is the benefit of having more than one project that you can talk about having exploration over here, having development over here, and redirecting capital to the ones that you think are going to generate the best outcomes for, if the market's looking for de-risked assets that can transition to production, or is the market looking for discovery because the uranium price is $100 a pound. But I do think that the market always pays up for discovery. And what I was talking about before, like, the next gens of the world, uranium price wasn't doing very well. These guys were clearly delineating one of the best deposits ever, and the market was rewarding that. So, for in a tough environment, it's really great to be able to put holes in that show that they could back up a new resource.
Yeah. And I guess let's come back to that share register, that the support you're getting in the market from those guys is obviously good news. But you obviously need to deliver to those guys as well. So 2025 for you is quite simply, we've got some drilling happening later in the year through to mid-October, hopefully. Yep. Results coming out there. We'll see what happens on the acquisition front. Hopefully something comes up. Mm-hmm. And it kind of feels like a market where M&A is much needed, because I think groups are finding it harder to access capital. You guys don't necessarily have that issue, I don't think. And there's a lot of maybe cash-strapped projects as well. It'd be interesting to see what happens or what opportunities you come across there. And as for development, well, I think we're starting to see that now.
Yeah.
There's PEA.
I totally agree. So the first half of the year is going to be resource update, PEA in New Mexico. Hopefully some M&A, and the second half of the year, really right on the back of that PEA in New Mexico, we should kind of start drilling in Wyoming. So we've got these pieces of work that could generate news flow for the company, and hopefully they'll get the appreciation that they deserve.
That's good, man. Yeah. Good, man. We'll get back out there.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate it.
See you live.
Yeah. Thank you. Cheers.